Oh, hello, yeah. Well, good grief. Certain things are inevitable, aren't they? Like the fact that, yesterday was Monday, today is Tuesday, and, tomorrow will probably be Wednesday, yeah. Certain things just are. And in politics, of course, certain things are as well. After all, we have to make sure that we placate all those baying voices on the right. We've seen this currently in the States with mainstream Democrats deciding to cave in and, just sell people down the river because various other people are getting a bit cross with it. Still, that might actually mean that we have to then have an Epstein vote. So these things always backfire at the same time. And perhaps as well you can see the inevitability of people pushing further and further with the BBC. Not content with having a BBC board which was basically appointed because of their close ties with the Conservative Party, and in one case very close ties to people setting up GB News, we will learn exactly how, cavey into all of those baying voices the BBC will become. Yeah, we did have that brief shining moment last week when it seemed like things might be different, but you're not allowed to have that. That's not for you, yes. Anyways, talking of such sellings out of things, I thought today we'd have a look at Darren Grimes. He of councillor fame, who's managed to have about 800 people vote for him in a fairly posh, leafy suburb of his hometown about a year ago, and is now sort of warning about dire things if he doesn't get his own way. So let's have a look at this.
If we don't get this right, I think actually people will decide that the ballot box is fundamentally broken. I feared this would happen if we betrayed the Brexit vote. I feared this would happen after Boris Johnson betrayed his 2019 vote. I fear this will happen now if we don't get this right. We have this last chance and people will simply wholesale switch off from the system and think to hell with it all, and we end up in a state of a new sort of civil war. I genuinely feel that people are at the end of their tether and they are being pushed and pushed and pushed and have been over decades. Told one thing by a politician: every politician who's been elected as Prime Minister since I was born in 1993 has promised to lower migration. They've done the opposite every single year. So all of these things that have been viewed as radical, that have been viewed as radical in the past, are now mainstream. And I worry that if we continue that trend and don't manage to release the gas that I would fear is forming within the country, the heat that is emanating from the British people themselves, if we don't find a way to unscrew that valve and let some of that pressure out, it's just going to blow.
Oh, yeah, yes, we need to release that gas, don't we? Yes, release that pressure. Because, of course, once we decide, a bit like the current Labour Party, that we're, definitely going to do what Reform want, I'm sure they won't keep on making demands and go further and further, Darren. Yes, obviously. The problem I had with this, though, is, of course, that, where Darren is, because, again, like I've said, it's a fairly leafy kind of part of the world from where he's in, immigration isn't the central issue about the people that he is representing. The actual numbers in his ward are incredibly low, and I'm guessing that a large number of those people are basically the types that work in takeaways on a Saturday night. That's about it in real terms. And if you look at the other statistics in terms of how economically active, etc., people are, it's fairly representative of the country. So perhaps the big issue is white people being economically inactive. I'm not entirely sure. But when we look at reform, about what they might actually do, other than spurious notions of, we'll just crack down on brown people and something, everything will be better, because that doesn't really sound like a coherent plan. But we saw that yesterday, with Mr. Nigel Farage, who actually had the audacity to complain about the amount of red tape the EU had put on businesses. I don't think it was the EU, mister. But you will notice, right, for example, around that coverage yesterday, which was wall-to-wall in the press, and I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure, pretty certain that the BBC would have covered it live. Yeah, loads of entrepreneurs in the room, very, very keen. But if you look at the minutiae, if you look at the detail, it's just basically about a boss's charter. There's nothing about the people and their concerns. And this is reform down to a T. Whenever they talk about liberalising things or, freeing up people from red tape, it basically seems to mean that people like me can just have a lot worse conditions at work and basically put up with, once again, declining pay. It's not immigration that's the issue. It's not immigration that's the issue. Still, never mind, that's Darren's raison d'etre, because of course for him it has to be. I mean, one of his big shocks in the last few weeks is the fact that Facebook demonetised him because he's an elected representative and you don't get monetised on Facebook. And my God, that isn't fair. That's not fair to Darren, is it, eh? Yes, there are standards that he needs to keep. But when you look again wider at what reform are doing the local authorities, I was struck by this from the Fire Brigade Union, who are basically saying that they can't very soon they won't be able to very soon to do things in Kent because the Kent Reform, Fire Committee is not meeting, so they don't have a budget. Think about that in terms of people and what their needs might be in terms of, not dying from smoke inhalation. Still, I guess we'll just blame that on migrants smouldering in the corner, shall we? Yes. And so it goes on. These aren't people that are doing anything other than selling us a pig in a poke, and they prove it every single time. Whenever there's an important vote in the Commons which might actually improve people's lives, they are nowhere to be seen. They're in the States picking up a cheque, or they're on GB News moaning their heads off because, people are asking for things like, I don't know, their elected representatives to do something which would qualitatively improve the quality of their lives. But that isn't the business they're in. They're in the business of picking up checks. Reminds me of the Republicans and, to a lesser extent, certainly, the Democrats in the States. And just to be entirely fair about it, you can level a lot of that at the current Labour Party as well. And he's right, there is a lot of disgust at current politics, but reform certainly aren't the answer to that problem, are they? Bunch of posh boys from finance, not entrepreneurs. Sorry, just not buying it. And if you want EU tape to go down, we'd actually have less if we rejoined. Yeah. So we can't have that Brexit betrayal, though, can we? Anyway, do have a lovely day if you can do. And remember, if anything goes wrong, if you get a bit wet or something, it'll be the migrants. It doesn't make any sense, but I hope for your sake that it just makes you feel better to blame them. It's just so much easier, isn't it? Yeah. Downpour of brown people. Dreadful.